Hi players, bonjour from Geneva, my name is Asaf and welcome to my channel Easy Board Games. Today I'm going to have for you how to play for the board game Quin that was designed by Taeleen Woodward and Brian Rooney. Before we're getting started, I just want to say thank you for the publishers Arc and Gravity for sponsoring this video and to let you guys know that this how to play is going to be for the arcade mode, which is the first basic mode that we have with Quin. Feel free to check out the other options that you have in their website, a link will be attached down below, or in the rulebook of the game. As always, if you learned something new or saw something that you like, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. It's absolutely free and it's a huge way to help me out. Ready to see how it goes? Let's go to setup. Alright guys, in order to set up the game Quin, first of all place the main board at the center of the table. Then each player is going to have their own setup. So let's concentrate on whatever we can see right over here. First of all, we have this mini board that is called the Zero Gravity board. On it we're going to place all of our pieces and we have a few of them. Then each player is going to take some sort of a totem or an object that they identify with, or a trinket, something that is going to bring them good luck, and they're going to keep it next to them. For this how to play, I have just chosen these two cool coasters that came with the game. For the initial setup, we're going to choose 10 of these pieces and we're going to place them on the 10 spaces that are the closest to us. That means all the white spaces that we can see over here and the spaces that are situated in front of them. Pay attention that in the initial setup you will not be able to put on the board one of the pieces that is called artificial light. But don't worry, we'll get into detail for every piece later down the video. As part of this setup, each player can choose secretly, of course, one of their clone tokens that we have over here in order to replace one of the pieces that we have on the Zero Gravity board, but pay attention that we cannot replace one of the shadow pieces. So for example, if you would like to have one more time token instead of one of the voids, for example, this is absolutely something that we can do, and by the way, this is something that they recommend on doing. So let's actually do just like that. We're going to take out the piece over here and we're going to replace it with another one. So this will be the outcome and we're going to place it right over here. I remind you, of course, that this needs to be hidden from your opponent, not only if you actually replaced one of your clones with one of the pieces, but actually which one. After that, we can simply take these tokens back to the box. So now as you paid attention, the black player has finished doing their setup, and pay attention for something really important, that the light piece that we have over here, which is one of a kind, it's unique and we're going to understand its importance in a few minutes, does not have to start with the initial setup. This is definitely something that you can place later or at all with an action that is called reinforcement. Now, as with all of my how-to plays, I'm not here at all to give you any kind of strategical advices, so this setup is just a random one, so I can demonstrate all the pieces, but feel free to either take advice from the rulebook itself or come up with your own strategy. And with that, guys, we are all set up to start the game, but let's have a quick overview before actually starting to take actions. In Quin the board games, we're going to have two players competing on achieving the victory condition. We have two victory conditions, and that is either to bring your light piece that we have over here to the center of the table, to a place that is called First Sight that we're going to talk about soon enough, or we will need to capture the light of your opponent. And now if we go back a little bit, you can understand why it is a strategical decision to bring light into the game with the initial setup, or bring it later, or not at all, which is a possibility as well. After you have decided randomly which player is going to take the first turn, each player is going to choose one action to do in their turn. Before we're going to start talking about the actions, let's talk about the anatomy of the board right now. As we've stated before, the center of the board is called First Sight. This is where we would like to bring our light in order to win the game. Next to the First Sight, we have two small spaces that are called the Iris. This is where almost all of the pieces will have to go through in order to reach to the other side of the board. Then we have all the rings that we can see right over here, and we have the straight lines that are called sight lines. This is basically how most pieces again will be able to move either in a straight line or with the rings. But we're going to talk about the specific pieces in just a few more moments. Then we have the horizon, which is basically this horizontal line that we have over here that divides the board between our side and the opponent's side. And we have 3 blue spaces to each side of the board that are not part of the game itself, and pieces will not be able to move over here. The last kind of spaces that we have are called gateways, and those are all the white spaces that are closest to the player. There we will be able later to do something that is called bring a reinforcement or resurrect a lost piece. After the players have chosen randomly which player is going to start, each player on their turn is going to choose one of the few actions that we can take in this game. The first action is to move a tower, so basically a tower will be able to move across these sight lines or with the rings, and of course each piece might move a little bit differently, and we will cover it when we'll go over all the pieces. Then we'll be able to flash a rival tower. That means that if we're going to finish our movement in the same space as an opponent's tower, we will be able to flash it. That means that both of us are going to reveal what tower we have, and then we're going to either capture it, or we're going to switch places with it, or we're going to have here destruction. Another option is to do something that is called to use a power, because some of the pieces over here do have special powers that they will be able to take instead of movement or something else. The third action is to bring a reinforcement, and that means to take one of your pieces that you have on this zero gravity board and place it in one of the free gateway spaces that we have. So as you can imagine, right now we cannot do it because we don't have at all any of these gateway spaces that are available. And the last action is called Resurrect a Lost Piece. This will be able to do only one time per game, and that means that we're going to take one piece that was captured by the enemy and we're going to place it on one of the free gateway spaces of our opponents, not with us. So with that, guys, let's start talking piece by piece. What are we going to do and how does it go? First of all, we have a very cool player aid that I'm going to present to you during this how to play, so it will be a little bit easier for you to follow it. Let's start probably with the main piece that we have in this game, and that is the light. So first of all, we have here 2 numbers. Let's understand what they mean. I think it's kind of self-explanatory, but with the other pieces maybe a little bit less. So the number that we have over to the left is how many pieces of that kind do we actually have in this game. The light piece is unique, as we've said at the beginning of the video, and we have only one of those. So of course, if the enemy is capturing it, like I've said, with the losing condition, that means that we have lost the game. To the right side, we have how many spaces that piece will be able to move. So for example, the white player that was chosen to be the starting player decides to move their light 2 spaces. So they can move either 1 and 2, or if this was the starting position, they would also be able to move 1 and 2. Pay attention that unless otherwise was specified, a piece will not be able to move 1 and 2 and change its direction. So either going with the sight lines or with the rings. And under its icon, we can see something that is called captures. So that basically means that if this piece is going to flash another piece, it's going to capture it. Let's take an example right now. If we would have had this shadow in this place right over here, and the white player would like to move its light to the same space, so they're going to declare that they want to move 1 and 2 right over here, and that means that we're going to flash that piece. So now both players are going to see what is the other piece that we have, and since light captures everything, that means that it captures even this shadow, and this piece is going to go to the zero gravity board that we have over here, with the light piece, of course, taking its position. Moving on to the next piece, that is called shadow. So again, we have 2 pieces of those, and a shadow piece can move up to 7 spaces. By the way, in case it wasn't clear until now, a piece doesn't have to move to its maximum. It can choose how many steps they would like to take, until, of course, to the maximum of the number that is stated. So just for the sake of this how to play, let's say that this shadow piece was over here, because I would like to demonstrate how we're actually going to cross the iris. So now the black player is going to move up to 7 times. So let's see how does it go. They will do 1, 2, 3, 4. And since now they're situated in one of the 3 white spaces next to the iris, they will be able to continue it. 5, 6, and then they will be able to choose to which direction they would like to go. They can choose any one of them. So if they would like to move over here, that will be the 7th step that they have taken, which of course makes it to the white player very obvious that this is a shadow piece. A shadow piece captures all the other pieces besides other shadows. If a shadow is going to flash another shadow, the only thing that they're going to do is simply to switch places. So let's say that this is the situation and now it's the white player's turn. If they're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, they're basically going to flash this unit. So we're going to turn the tower to the other side, right? Both players will be able to see what's going on. And then since a shadow cannot capture another shadow, they're simply going to change their position just like this. And of course, turning it to the other side to the respective player. The next piece, and you can see that I'm jumping a little bit, that I would like to talk about is called a void. So we have 4 pieces like this, and a void can move only 1 step, and of course it captures everything, but it has a little bit of a different thing. If a void flashes another unit offensively, like we have for example this situation right now, so if the void is going to move 1 space and they're going to flash the shadow of the black player, so again they're going to turn it to the same side, and that basically means that this piece is going to be captured by the white player, moving the void that we have right over here. On the other hand, if a void is being flashed by any unit besides light and artificial light, that will cause a mutual destruction and is going to remove both of the pieces from the board to their opponent's zero gravity board. Moving on to the next piece, we have artificial light. We have 4 of those, and here you can see that the movement is going to change according to some condition. So first of all, I just remind you that artificial light cannot start the game on our board. It has to be brought in with an action that is called reinforcement. So let's talk about reinforcement for one moment. Right now, the black player is doing an action that is called reinforcement. They're going to take one of the pieces that is situated on their zero gravity. For this case, we're going to choose the artificial light, and they're going to place it in one of the gateways spaces that they have available, of course. For the black player, it's going to be super simple since they have only one of those right over here. So what they're going to do is to place the artificial light just like this. The special thing with artificial light, that while usually as a reinforcement you can bring only one piece into game, with artificial light you can bring as many as you want. So if this was the situation, for example, the black player could have brought with a single action even 3 or more if they would like to, artificial lights into this game. That will of course reveal to the white player what are the pieces that the black player has just brought into game, but it's important to know that this is a possibility. Usually an artificial light can move only 2 spaces, but, and this is why we're going to see the differences between the numbers, if both of your shadows were removed by your opponent, then your artificial light will be able to do something that is called to accelerate, and they will be able to move up to 5 spaces for the remainder of the game. If your shadow piece was resurrected later in this game, then the artificial light will go back to its normal stats and will be able to move up to 2 spaces. The next piece that I would like to talk about is called a reflector. A reflector can transfer light or artificial light on a continuous line, and pay attention that I'm talking about the sight lines that we have over here, and not on a ring or on the iris. The transferred piece has to land on a space next to the reflector on that same line, and it can land on a rival piece in order to flash it. So let's take an example, shall we? Let's say that we have this reflector right over here on this position, and we have the light over here. And also, let's assume that we have this piece of the black player in this position. Right now, since both of this reflector and the light are situated on the same sight line, the reflector will be able to use this power in order to transfer the light to an adjacent space next to the reflector on the same sight line. So they will be able to transfer it over here, or as we've said, they can even land the light on the enemy unit in order to flash it. In that case, since light captures everything, we're going to take a look at this piece and we're going to capture it while the light is going to stay right over here. So this piece is going to go to the zero gravity board of the white player. Pay attention that the transferred light or artificial light can jump over other pieces, unlike what we have seen with the regular movement of the other pieces. So just in case it wasn't clear, if we have this situation just like this, the shadow that we have over here cannot perform 1, 2, and then skip over another piece. It will have to first of all flash it if they want, or stop one space before the opponent's piece. Pay attention that with the reflector, if they flash another tower, they will not be able to capture it. They're simply going to reveal that tower and then they're going to swap places with it. And if we're already talking about swapping places, let's talk about the next piece that we have that is called memory. We have only one of those and it can move up to 2 spaces. A memory can swap places with any of our pieces on the same side of the board. So if we're continuing with the white player, right now on their turn, they will be able to use the special power of the memory and swap places, for example, with the shadow that we have over here. It's just an example, of course. Pay attention that both pieces are situated on the same side of the board. On another example, if this was the starting position, then now they will be able to maybe swap places with the light that we had over there. Again, it is on the same side of the board. A memory, just like the reflector, once flashing an opponent's unit, they will only swap places with it and not capture. Going back to capturing units, the next one that I would like to talk about is called time, that we have only one of those and it can move only one space. The time special power is to rewind the last move of your rival made unless they made a capture, moved a shadow, or took first sight. So I kind of think it's self-explanatory, it's just taking back the last move of your rival, and the thing is that time can be situated wherever they want on the board in order to activate their special power. The thing is that once you're actually using the power of the time, it's going to be immediately removed and placed on the zero gravity board of your opponent, but it is not considered to be an action, so it will not finish your turn. Let's take an example. Let's say that this is the situation right now and it's the black player's turn. So right now they would like to flash the tower that we have over here that is situated 2 spaces away, and since that is the distance that the reflector can move, they're going to do exactly that. Since a reflector cannot capture any unit, they're just going to flash them and then swap places with them. This is going to be the outcome. Now, the white player on their turn, they don't really like what they've just seen over here, since it is taking their light further away from the first sight, which is one of the winning conditions that we have with this game. So on their turn, what they're going to do is to use the special power of time. They're going to remove it to the zero gravity board of the opponent in order to undo the opponent's last move and bring back the situation to how it was before. Now, for example, since it does not finish the turn of the white player, they can move with their light 2 steps closer to the first sight. So they're going to move 1 and 2. As you can see, this can be quite practical when using it with some good timing. In other cases, the timepiece can be used as a normal tower and also capture all the other units. The last piece that I would like to talk about that is very interesting is called Peripheral. We have 2 pieces like this and it can move up to 3 spaces. A peripheral is the only piece that can move freely onto the horizon line from any space adjacent to it on a ring. So as you remember, we've said in the beginning that for movement, all the pieces have to go through the iris, right through the center of the board, in order to move from one side to the other side. The peripheral actually escapes this rule and they can move differently. So if this is the situation right now and it is the white player's turn, they will be able to move 1, 2, and 3, or up to 3, they can move even 2, just like we've seen with the other towers. And again, that is the only piece that can cross the board to the other side using the horizon. So we've talked about moving a tower, we talked about flashing a rival tower, we even talked about using powers, and we saw how we're going to bring in reinforcement. Let's talk for one moment about resurrecting a lost piece. So right now the black player kind of misses its memory piece that they have only one of those. So on their turn, they're going to flip to the other side or turn their totem that they brought into this game. Again, because resurrecting a lost piece is something that can happen only one time per game, in order to take one of their lost pieces and bring it to a free gateway space of the rival. So unlike reinforcement, now they will be able to take this piece right over here and put it either in this space or this one. For our case, they have chosen to place it right over here. Now guys, I know that this game might seem a little bit complex at the beginning, just because it's going to take you some time to get comfortable with this game. So one of the suggestions that they have in the rulebook, which I really like, is that the first time you're playing this game, actually play in a way that all the pieces are revealed. You can, again, take out these tokens that we have over here and place them flat on the table. What it gives you, of course, is not so much of a strategical depth, obviously because all the pieces are visible to all the players, but at least you can discuss between yourselves and make sure how does each piece move in order to not mistake later when you're going to play a real game. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you learned something new or saw something that you like. In that case, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Check out Quin. I'm going to add their website down below in the video. Thank you again for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.